Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to the screencast today. We're going to be talking about propaganda, censorship, and some logical fallacies that connect to Animal Farm and most likely our lives just as we are consumers and citizens. So as we've read in the first few chapters of Animal Farm, these pigs are definitely up to something. Since this is an allegory and a satire about the Russian Revolution, the story of the pigs coming to power is a mirror of how Stalin and Trotsky came to power. A huge contributing factor to that and to their success was the use of these propaganda techniques. Propaganda is just the manipulation and control of language. And while you can think of propaganda as this evil thing, really, advertisers everywhere are using these all the time. Politicians are using this. It's widespread in every country in the world. So I think it's our jobs as citizens to look for ways that we're exposed to some of these examples and not, I guess, be manipulated and kind of duped by these. So who uses propaganda? Media, military, advertisers, politicians. Hey, you and me. I've heard plenty of persuasive speeches that use sort of faulty reasoning. We'll be talking about logical fallacies later. But just as a citizen, when you are researching something, when you're listening to a debate, when you're even shopping for toothpaste, right? It's important that when you're looking up the facts, you need to be mindful of who's presenting those facts. Are they facts, or is someone using manipulation? Are they using propaganda to persuade you? So the goal of a dictator, so think about, kind of switch gears here for a little bit. The goal of a dictator, or maybe an irresponsible arguer, somebody trying to persuade you very irresponsibly without respect for the facts. They want to make their citizens less and less conscious, less and less able to make distinctions between the truth, what's real and what's not real, and unable to draw logical conclusions. So they want to convince the people that they are on the right path and that these other people are fools. One of the big terms that we're going to be using in Animal Farm is called doublespeak. It's actually a very popular technique that we'll see in Animal Farm, and you may have already. Doublespeak is inspired by the terms doublethink and newspeak in George Orwell's 1984. So William Lutz, a writer in the 80s, I think, coined this term, but it's definitely, the idea there is Orwell's. So William Lutz in 1989 wrote a book of the same name, Doublespeak, and he has 4 different types: euphemism, jargon, gobbledygook or bureaucratese, or inflated language. We're going to quickly go over those. You guys have a PDF that you're going to read through on these 4 types. It's just a summary of what William Lutz kind of outlines here for us. Euphemism is the first one, and I did attach this video to the assignment. This is George Carlin. I just want to say, he's like kind of he's has since passed away, and that's kind of a funny phrase because he actually talks about passing away, a euphemism for dying, and how it's soft language. Kind of makes fun of the American tendency to not want to offend people, not want to push any buttons. So we use soft language instead of just being real. And so I've attached the video to the assignment. So you should take a look. It's actually really funny. I meshed a couple things together because he's kind of a cranky old man and uses some language that maybe we shouldn't be listening to. So I kind of cropped it together. So yeah, check that video out after you get done watching this. So euphemisms, according to CRISP, are unpleasant truths wearing diplomatic cologne. So the idea that you've got something gross or something nasty and you spray something nice on it, well, it doesn't make the gross thing disappear. So it's an inoffensive or positive, polite way to say something harsh, unpleasant, or something that we don't like. I think I've said this before in class. Americans especially don't like to talk about two things, death and bodily function. So we've got lots of euphemisms to cover those things up. So this can be a tactful word that avoids meaning or avoids the truth, or it can be an expression just because we don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, or we want to avoid something that's maybe taboo, like socially or culturally taboo, like the example of like bodily fluids or death. That's very socially taboo. We don't like to talk about those things. The second one is jargon. So this would be if you were a mechanic or if you were a doctor, you have specific jargon in your job that you use. So this actually has a useful function, but sometimes twisted can be used as a part of doublespeak. If you are using jargon to intentionally manipulate or confuse, sometimes you come off as pretentious, you come off as confusing. You might have an air of authority or prestige to speakers. So they might think, oh, he knows what he's talking about. He's using all these big words. Kind of like the pigs in Animal Farm. They used a bunch of jargon to persuade the birds that they had, in fact, 4 legs, even though they have 2 wings. So making the simple look complex. Another type is gobbledygook. So yeah, this is not the Sigur Rós song. Do you guys listen to Sigur Rós? It's actually a good song. But definitely not that. So this is like the piling on of words. If you don't want to say something clear, you want to confuse them. Just overwhelm the audience with a bunch of words. The bigger the words, the longer the sentences, the better. So Alan Greenspan has this quote. He was the chair of the Federal Reserve, and so he has this quote about inflation, I think. I'll let you guys read it with me. It's a tricky problem to find the particular collaboration and timing that would be appropriate to stem the acceleration and risk premiums created by falling incomes without prematurely aborting the decline in the inflation-generated risk premiums. Yeah. So there, gobbledygook. Inflated language. Think of a balloon. This is the 4th type. So a balloon, it's bigger and better when it's inflated. So this is language that makes something ordinary or everyday seem extraordinary or impressive. So the examples could be like a used car isn't a used car. It's a pre-owned or experienced car, or a nuclear fire is just rapid oxidation. The next place we're going to go, we're going to talk about logical fallacies. These can also be a persuasive technique. This is using poor logical reasoning to persuade people. You guys have probably seen these before, so we're not going to take too much time going through these. Bandwagon, everyone else is doing it. So the idea that you're persuading someone by saying, well, everyone else is doing it, like McDonald's saying, well, we've served over like 99 billion people, so we must be doing something right. Or people eating gluten-free because it just seems to be the trend these days, or you should buy Maybelline because it's America's favorite mascara. Everybody's doing it. This one is oversimplification. The idea that making something really simple and easy to understand actually covers the real truth or the real meaning. So putting a stamp of low calorie, like what does that mean? That's way too simple. Low calorie compared to what? Yeah, a diet like a Coke is low calorie compared to maybe 5 cheeseburgers, but it's still not a really low calorie option. Or the made with recycled paper, what they might not say is it's maybe 10% recycled paper. It's made with some recycled paper. Internal contradiction, this one's pretty simple. It's just essentially the first part contradicts the second part of the sentence. So you don't have to take the final exam, but you won't pass the course if you don't. So an internal contradiction. Faulty cause and effect. We're going to see this a lot in Animal Farm. So no logical cause. This is called post hoc ergo propter hoc. It's no logical cause is given for the known effect. So when Squealer tries to persuade these animals that the pigs need the apples and milk because they're brain food. He doesn't actually logically get from point A to point B. He just assumes that they understand that, or the idea that your toothpaste is the best because it's the best whitening toothpaste. Well, there's no logical jump there that means that they're the best. So it's just like kind of assuming the causation between 2 points. I love this one, begging the question. So we see this a lot in the athletic world. If you don't want to answer a question, hey, don't do it. Avoid answering the question by skirting around the issue. So I don't know if you guys are big sports fans, but I love Greg Popovich. He is so funny. He hates interviews and he hates answering questions because let's be real, some of the questions are kind of dumb, but he just skirts the issues, or he has a way of answering but not really answering. Ryan Tannehill, he essentially has a formula for how he answers questions. It doesn't matter what team he's talking about or what player he's talking about. He says it in the same way because he doesn't really, in the sports world, you're not going to give your game plan away, right? You could also use red herring. So you could also bring up something slightly related to direct attention away from what they really asked you or what you're really talking about. False dichotomy, when you present 2 options, when in reality there's more than 2. So the idea that, well, you either love it or leave it. You love the USA or you can leave. If you have a problem, you should just leave. This happens to me all the time when I'm at when I'm at Panera or another place, like buying something, and they ask me, do you want to round up to feed starving children? Kind of almost saying that if I don't, that I don't care about starving children. In reality, think about how a business could take advantage of this by using this kind of phraseology, like the idea that if you don't donate, you don't care about starving children, you don't care about the homeless or whatever. When in reality, you have more than those 2 options. You could maybe, donate to feeding starving children in another way. So this is false dichotomy. Hasty generalization, using words like always, all, every, like a cure-all for something. So the squirrel on the left in this picture, I have never seen food that is not circle-shaped. All food is therefore definitely circle-shaped, right? But this is simply not true. You're basing something on insufficient evidence. So other techniques, name calling, we get this, right? Politicians use this all the time, like crooked Hillary, or calling Trump a bum or something like that, linking a person to a negative symbol. Testimonial, we see this all the time too. It's a great technique where celebrities or people that we trust as a culture are supporting a candidate, an idea, a product, right? And so should we. Fear as well, very good technique. I'm just thinking even the climate that we're in right now, the reason we're online, there's, I'm sure, going to be lots of products and people kind of living off of the culture and of fear that we're in right now with the coronavirus. So in this example, destroy this mad brute. The girl is supposed to be Germany. If you don't enlist, no one is safe, including Lady Liberty, which the woman is supposed to be Lady Liberty. The Germans are animals that will attack us, right? This is a gorilla showing up on the shores, right? Very fearful ad. The other things to consider when you're talking about these techniques only work when you've got these 3 bullet points here going on. You must have a mass of people that are behind the leader and feels that their ideas will make a real difference. You also, and this is very important, you also have to have an ignorant body. This mass of people has to be ignorant. Think of the animals. They barely know how to read. They can't write for themselves. They must not be too educated. That's why these things work, guys. The techniques work because they're not educated. There also must be someone to blame, a scapegoat. later, any problems that arise are because of that scapegoat, and keep the leadership in power.